have Napheesa Collier's comments come back to bite her in the backside, and not just her comments. We can talk about the things she said about Kathy Engelbert after the playoffs when Napheesa Collier got injured. Hey, how about just starting Unrivaled, and some of the things she said all that time as she talked about, it's not a competitor league, and then more recently piling on, constantly using Unrivaled to pit it against the WNBA when it comes to CBA negotiations, and on and on and on. We have, of course, this picture, orchestrated by people like Napheesa Collier being involved in the union, pay us what you owe us. We could sit here for hours going through some of the things that she has said and done in her behavior. And now we have Minnesota Lynx face difficult choice as Napheesa Collier's massive salary cap hit looms. And I want to talk about this in a broader sense too. Obviously, we're going to talk about Napheesa Collier and how she's affected in the Minnesota Lynx, but this then applies to teams like Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark, maybe even more so, because to keep Kelsey Mitchell, they'll have to core her, right? That's a lot of money to pay Kelsey. But then with the shift as well, Aaliyah Boston can make more this year. We didn't expect that. Caitlin Clark can make a lot more next year, which we didn't expect that. And that's above and beyond the increases in the rookie contract the salaries as well. So let's dig in. Let's see what we're talking about here. And then, of course, we have a very, very unfortunate thing for Napheesa Collier in terms of the timing, which we'll get into as well. Thank you for being here, of course. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're here checking it out for the first time, or as I saw in the comments the other day, someone who had, I believe they just stopped in the off season, didn't pay attention to any of the channels talking about the WNBA and Caitlin Clark, but they just resubscribed, and I really do appreciate that. So let's dig in. The WNBA's new CBA, designed to help teams, but for the Minnesota Lynx, it creates a massive challenge. I think it creates challenges for a lot of teams because, again, at certain levels and structures, individual salaries take up more of the cap. We'll get to that more in a minute, too. So the team that faces a difficult decision regarding star Napheesa Collier's looming supermax, made even more difficult by something else. Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeve puts herself in a dilemma whether or not she can fund all 8 of the unrestricted free agents behind an elite player like Napheesa Collier, who will be entering her 8th season with Minnesota should she join them back. Right. And again, the Supermax being now 20%, everything that I've seen tells me Napheesa Collier wants that Supermax. Will she settle for a max if that means signing another good player that will help Minnesota make another run? I don't know. From everything I've seen from Napheesa Collier, but then again, she might have trouble finding a job, period. We'll get to that as well. Now we're just breaking through how the salaries change. Average salary from $120,000 to around $600,000. Minimum salary to more than $300,000, up from $66,079. Now we've got the expansion draft coming up. We'll see who comes and goes. But look at some of these players the Lynx have, right? Caitlin McBride, Courtney Williams, Alana Smith, Natisha Heidemann. These are some players that are going to have to get paid. I wouldn't mind seeing Caitlin McBride or Alana Smith in an Indiana Fever uniform. I think the notion of taking less now is more zeros attached to that, Reese said while chuckling. And so what is the appetite for that? Which is a great thing. Where are the players' mindsets with this? And what I mean by that is, are players willing to take what is ultimately a lot more, but maybe less than they thought? Like, are they looking at what they got last year and then like, okay, well, this amount last year is now, as we slide over to what the total increases were, times 4.5 or whatever it is, it's now this amount. Are they now expecting that as a minimum? Or will they take less? Will they go from $66,079 to, 300,000 instead of 66,000 to 550, 575,000? It's still a lot more money, even if it's not what they thought. Plus, it's going to be interesting to see how teams approach it, right? When you get to bigger salary caps and things like that, like the other leagues have, you get a lot more. There's a lot more flexibility, maybe, or you get different approaches from different teams because there becomes a lot more different ways to put a team together. Do you sacrifice, sign a big three? I mean, if you sign three supermax players, that's 60% of your salary. Now you have 40% left for 9 players. But do you think, well, we want to do that, and then we're going to put a lot of very specific role players around those 3, and that's how we're going to win? Or do you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go with my superstar, maybe 3 or 4 really good players, and then some role players. Or hey, am I going with 2 big superstars and then drop down to 1 good player and some role players and a bunch of players that are going to take less than even the average salary? So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams approach it, especially this season, which I think is going to be much different than seasons going forward, just because of all the free agencies and the condensed amount of time of the free agency period because of when the CBA was signed. So, and Napheesa's already 29, by the way, which is kind of interesting. But like its point here, is she going to be willing to take 14% of the salary cap, which would put her at $995,400? Collier wants to return. She's indicated she wants to return to the Minnesota Lynx, but are they willing to pay her what she wants? Will she take less, which of course will still be a lot more? Will she maybe take a longer term deal, right? 29, she's getting to that area. Plus, we're going to get to the big thing with this, and that is this. That was a nasty, nasty injury that Napheesa Collier suffered at the end of the WNBA season. And apparently, she doesn't seem to be progressing the way it was expected from that injury, which of course is going to leave questions like, will she be ready? When will she be ready? And will she ever be the player that she was before? That is always a question when we are talking about serious injuries. You never know. Some players adjust. Some players, I mean, that's the thing, that within a range, players are different in terms of how quickly they recover from injury, but not just how quickly, how much do they return to the player they were before? Some never fully recover from an injury like an ACL. They never become what they were before, and they don't have the skill set, excuse me, the skill set or the athleticism to adjust and become a just as good or better, but in a different way, as a different type of player. So apparently, the Lynx star was spotted at her annual Hopkins basketball camp using a leg scooter and a cast on her left leg. I did check in with the Lynx, and they had no comment at this time. Until I hear more, I'm staying positive, he added from the post. So still on a scooter. It's been a long time. So her current situation comes after a serious ankle injury setback that required surgery on both ankles earlier this year. Her injury comes from playing during the 25 WNBA playoffs, where she was already suffering from multiple ankle issues, which caused the initial strain. No doubt that Fee is one of Link's most important players, and any further delay in her recovery will further impact their overall season. So that is another thing, too. If you have questions about a play, and hey, if any of you who have played, or you probably know just from watching, man, ankle injuries for a basketball player, I mean, that's watch out. I'm just saying, watch out. So that is the other thing, too. Will Minnesota want to pay, even if Fee wants to take less, will they want to pay what Fee wants for this season when there's a huge question mark around what type of player will she be? Or are they going to say, hey, we're going to give you a lot less. It's still going to be more than you made last year, and we're going to give you a 1-year deal because we don't know what kind of player you're going to be. Now, that's a risk for them, too. If Napheesa comes back and she has a great season, she may go elsewhere for more money, be like, hey, too bad, Minnesota. But it's going to be interesting to see what the team decides and how they approach this. And then I'll just, finalize again, leading this back to the Indiana Fever. What type of approach are they going to take? I feel like, for me, they do whatever it takes to sign Kelsey Mitchell this year. And they go all in on winning a title this year. And then they're going to have to make decisions, because if Kelsey Mitchell has another fantastic year, like, right, if the Indiana big three, if all three of them have great years, man, next year is going to be really, really tough to keep all three again, unless you get that scouting team really going and go out there and scour all the leagues in the world, and you bring in players for, much less than average, bring them in near that minimum, and you figure these are the pieces. As long as our big three stay healthy, these are the pieces that we can surround them with, and we can win. We don't need a bunch of above average. When I say above average, I mean in the salary cap sense, above average players in order to compete. Or do they say, hey, we got to let at least one of these girls go so we have the money to bring in enough other good players and still compete? Let me know your thoughts. Oh, and of course, do you think Napheesa will be a Minnesota Lynx player, and what kind of money is she going to get? Let me know. As always, thank you for being here. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. I will talk to you later.